Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for the virtual launch of Around Australia at 80Ks by Meredith Schofield. My name is Kate, and I'm the manager of Collins Booksellers, The Rule, Meredith's local bookstore. We're so pleased she invited us to celebrate with her tonight. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that this event is being held on the traditional lands of the Wadi Wadi people, who are a part of the Dharawal Nation. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Now, it's time to introduce our MC for the evening, Toby Farage. Toby Farage is an award-winning journalist and television producer who also counts photography as a professional pursuit and passion. He has worked in senior editorial roles at many of Australia's leading broadcasters and media organisations, including the Seven Network, SBS and News Limited. Toby has known Meredith for over a decade and has collaborated with her on photographic projects several times. He also co-hosts and co-produces their popular photography podcast, Click, Click, Bang, Bang. Hi, Toby.
Hey, Kate, and thanks very much for that wonderful welcome.
You're most welcome.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone, and I'd like to extend my welcome as well to all of you to this fabulous event. A very exciting evening ahead as we launch Around Australia at 80Ks, which is the first book by my good friend Meredith Schofield. I'd also like to start by acknowledging the Cadigal people of the Eora Nation, which is where I'm presenting to you from this evening. And I'd like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging also. Now, just a quick overview of what we'll be going through this evening. We'll have a chat with Mez, obviously, over the next 45 minutes or so. We'll show you a few videos, a trailer of the book, and some other bits and pieces as well. I'll be asking Mez lots of questions about the book and how she put it together and things about the trip and all that sort of stuff as well. And then it's your chance also to ask questions too at the end of the session. Now, you can ask questions while we're going through our chat all the way through the evening. You can ask questions whenever you like. Just bash them into the chat box and we'll get to you as many as we can. So about the author. Meredith Schofield is an Australian-Estonian photographer and a writer now based on the south coast of New South Wales. She specialises in landscape, travel and documentary photography, and her passion is in capturing images that evoke a response, both visually, emotionally, intellectually or otherwise. Reportage has become a pillar of her work, allowing Meredith to follow her passion of raising awareness for social issues through the power of storytelling. Outside of photography, Meredith is an avid car collector. She can often be seen at her local beach with her kombi, Etta, on the cover of the book here, and her dog, Bandit, and also, of course, her husband, Sean. They travelled around Australia, getting off the beaten track to discover this amazing, vast and wild country. And her debut book, Around Australia at 80Ks, is coming out now, and it's from Affirm Press. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our author, Meredith.
Hi.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you so much, Toby, for that introduction. And thank you so much to Kate from Collins Booksellers, The Rule. Yes, it's all right, Bandy. Bandit's just next to me and he's crying because he can see Toby on the screen and he loves Toby. Yeah. Oh, yes, he's a good boy. He's a good boy. Yeah, thank you so much for doing this with me. I'm so happy that you're here with me, Toby, because you are one of my best friends and you know me so well and you know Etta so well and Sean and Bandit. And we should say that like Sean is here. He is just doing all the technical side of everything. So I haven't, we haven't divorced. The trip didn't send us into a divorce. He's behind the scenes in the dining room, sort of, putting everything together. So but thanks for everything.
Oh, pleasure. I'm so excited, man. So proud of you as well for putting this fabulous book together. I mean, it looks amazing. I got my copy this week. I've been going through it. It looks absolutely fantastic. Could you just tell us a little bit about the book, if you can?
Yeah, definitely. And it looks great, doesn't it? I'm so happy with how it came out. And I think you probably know as well as I do, Toby, as a photographer, we're very nitpicky about like print quality and how things look. And so when I got it in my hot little hands, I was absolutely blown away at how amazing it looked. So I'm very, very happy. But the book is about a journey that I went on with my husband, Sean, and my dog, Bandit, around Australia in 2019, pre-pandemic. pre-pandemic, so we were very lucky that we went pre-pandemic. We took our beautiful kombi Etta with us, so we traveled around in her, and we did this like massive half lap around the country, which was basically leaving from Wollongong, where we live, across into Victoria, into South Australia, into WA, up the West Coast, and then down the Red Centre and home.
Wow.
So it's like a big, massive half lap. And so that's kind of what the book is about. And it's full of, amazing stories. I like to think of it as not like just a guidebook about Australia, but a sort of travel memoir as well. So I think people will really connect to it. And I also think that people who have a dog and want to travel with their dog will really enjoy it, because there's lots of like great dog friendly tips and stuff like that. So
awesome.
That's basically what it's about. But why don't I kind of show you what the essence of this book is about? I'm going to show you.
Yeah, perfect. How cool is that? That looks incredible.
So I mean, it was pretty epic. And the one thing that makes Etta so special is that she just fits into the landscape so well. I mean, you saw it there in the book trailer that she's at home on the open road in Australia. So she was the best vehicle we could have taken to do this epic journey.
The perfect prop, absolutely. Now, obviously, as you mentioned before, COVID hitting just before you went on the trip. Now, obviously, COVID's
just after.
Sorry. Obviously, COVID's had a massive impact on many of us in the creative industry. You yourself haven't been immune from that at all. Just tell us a little bit about that and how the idea for the book came together and how you got started on it, basically.
Well, basically it was COVID. So we got back in late July. If you do hear squeaking, by the way, that's Bandit. We got, I wasn't sure if my mic would pick that up. We got back in late July of 2019, and sort of a couple of months after we got back, we had those horrific bushfires on the South Coast. Which thankfully, like here in Wollongong, we were okay, but it was just a horrible time. And, honestly, it was horrific for the whole community. And I was still working after I got back. And then January 2020, the first lockdown, I pretty much lost every single booking I had. So I mainly photograph events with people, and I photograph documentary photography of people. So my work pretty much went to 0%, and I had so many cancellations. And so I thought, okay, well, what am I going to do? I don't just want to do nothing. So I decided to do a TAFE course and do a little teaching course at TAFE. And while I was doing that, I thought, I've got all of this material for from this trip. I mean, as a professional photographer, I took like 12,000 photos on this journey of 4 months. I know it's a lot. And I just thought, I've got all this material and no one's going to be able to travel internationally anytime soon. Why don't I write a book about our trip and like try and convince people to travel around Australia? So I thought, all right, I'll do it. And so I wrote a couple of chapters, and, Etta and Bandit together being such a beautiful combination, I thought I had something there. And so I wrote a pitch and I started researching publishers. And as soon as I was researching Affirm Press, who is my beautiful publisher, I just thought, oh my God, they're the publisher for me. And I was very lucky that they were really open to unique Australian stories. And I thought, well, this is a pretty unique Australian story. So I sent them my pitch and a couple of chapters that I'd written along with some photographs. And I was extremely lucky that, about 4 months later, they contacted me, and that sort of started the whole process. And they've been like super supportive and amazing ever since. And I honestly feel like I'm just extremely lucky, like extremely, extremely lucky, because now with the second lockdown, I've been able to focus, on the book coming out and putting my attentions towards that. And it's really given me like some hope for the future, because when the second lockdown came, as I'm sure you know, Toby, like I lost everything again. So I was working between the two lockdowns, and then everything just left, and I haven't worked since the start of the lockdown. So it sort of came at the right time, and I really hope the book is coming at the right time now that we all have Freedom Day in our sights. I'm really hoping that people will try and get out there and see Australia instead of maybe going overseas, because there's a lot of communities out there that really need our help right now. So if we start traveling, I think it'd be really good if we could, holiday in Australia.
For sure. I reckon the book's come out at an absolutely perfect time. As you know, I myself was about to head off on a trip to the Northern Territory myself.
Yes, you were.
Thank you, lockdown. We weren't able to go, but now I have the perfect companion
got the perfect guidebook
where we managed to rebook it, which is awesome, so thank you. Now, speaking of timing, the beginning of your trip wasn't exactly the easiest thing in the world, was it? Tell us a little bit about what happened just before you guys were about to leave.
So, we chose to do the trip in Etta, and she is a 1975 Volkswagen microbus, aka a kombi. Her engine is 46 plus years old. Wow. And, it was 3 weeks before the trip, and we had, planned everything. Like Sean, my husband, he had taken long service leave. And so the date set that we were going to go, it couldn't change. It couldn't budge. And a few weeks before we were to leave, something disastrous happened. And so maybe I might read a little bit from the book to give you a sense of what that might have been. So this is from the introduction. I'll actually show that because it looks so good. That's our Cold Coast hideaway here in Wollongong. Okay, beautiful. So I'll just read this little bit for you. Okay, I like to sort of like talk to the readers too, so that's how the tone is. If in the initial phases of planning your trip, there are a few or a lot of hiccups, don't abandon the whole thing. Heading out on a trip like this is daunting. The fear can quickly become too much. It will feel like the stars aren't aligning. And I'm sorry to tell you this, they won't. There is never a perfect time to do a big trip, and there will be obstacles. But if you're not feeling out of your depths, you're not doing it right. It's all part of the adventure. Take our experience, for instance. After years of dreaming and months of planning, all it took was one phone call to make it feel like everything was falling down around us. It was mid-February, and we were supposed to leave in 3 weeks for a 4-month trip around Australia in our 1975 kombi Etta, when I received a call from our mechanic that would change everything. He had bad news. Crucial parts of Etta's engine were kaput and needed to be rebuilt. Rebuilding an engine can take months and cost in excess of $10,000. We didn't have that kind of time, and we certainly didn't have that kind of money. We'd have to cancel the trip. I could see our great Australian road trip becoming smaller and smaller in the rearview mirror. So that gives you a little insight into what we were going through. And I remember after I got the mechanic's call, I called Sean, and he was actually in the middle of a massive refugee camp in Bangladesh. He was working with a humanitarian aid organization there. And during the day, he had been visiting hospitals and sick children, like really horrific stuff. And so here I am calling him, and he's standing in the middle of this refugee camp. And I'm like, the worst thing ever happened. And so that whole situation really, really put things into perspective and really set the tone for us going forward and trying to figure out what we were going to do. And so what we decided to do is we decided to rebuild the engine ourselves in 3 weeks. Wow. I mean, surprise, we were successful because we did the trip. But yeah, so it was very daunting, and there's a lot in the book about that, about how we did the rebuild and how we sort of got going again. But I guess the best actual way to explain it is I might actually read another bit of the book, if that's okay, because once we had turned her over and the engine started going, we're like, oh my God, I can't believe we just did this. We did some test drives and she was all good. And we're like, okay, like, let's just do this. Let's go. So this is from a section called Setting Out Finally. You see beautiful Etta there?
Awesome.
Yeah. Actually leaving on this trip was the biggest leap of faith we'd ever taken. Faith in ourselves and what we had accomplished. And faith in that we could work out whatever problems came up. It will likely take you a lot of courage and trust in yourself to set out too. But don't let cold feet stop you. When you first set out, it might feel like it's all or nothing, but just take each moment as it comes. We agreed that no matter how far we got, it would be worth the trip, and we could always tow Etta home if it came to it. Let's just go. So we did. We left and we were completely at the mercy of this huge dry continent and this little old yellow bus.
Sounds pretty crazy, hey, when you put it like that. I mean, just give us a little insight into just the feeling inside that you had when you guys, turned over the engine, packed the bags, and set off. Like, you must have been excited, nervous.
No, sheer and utter fear.
Terror.
Sheer and utter fear. Honestly, I really truly mean that, because we thought, oh sweet, it'll be so smooth sailing. Like, we'll take our kombi around the country, yay! And then the engine absolutely just went to kaputskis, and we're not mechanics. I'm an artist. Sean's an aid worker. That's not what we do. And so for that whole process, even when you had the engine parts in your hand, we're like, how are we ever going to do this? How is this ever going to work? How is this car ever going to get around the country? And so when we finally left, it was fear. It really was. But the further down the road we got, the fear lessened. Yeah. And that's kind of why I talk to people in the book, like I'm speaking directly to them, like, it's going to be scary. You're going to have obstacles. Things are going to go wrong, but you just have to push through, because it's kind of like all part of the adventure. But definitely, by the time we got across the Nullarbor, we had kind of felt like, okay, we can breathe now. Yeah.
Oh, look, honestly, I think it's incredible. This is the route that you took it would be a challenging trip in a modern vehicle, let alone one that's almost the same age as me. And I'm a decrepit old granddad, pretty much. So it gives you an insight.
Do you need an oil change, Toby?
Probably. Probably. Can you rebuild me as well, please?
I can.
So hats off to both you and Sean for taking the plunge and doing this thing, because it was, it's an incredible achievement, really, to do it in such an old vehicle. But of course, it wasn't just yourself and Sean on this trip now, was it? We should probably introduce our third member of this fabulous story. Here he is, Bandit, and his little friend.
That's Monkey.
He's taking a little cuddle with Monkey there.
Yeah,
now,
he's taking a cuddle with Monkey.
Bandit and I have a very close relationship. We've loved each other since we've known each other, pretty much.
Yeah, since we
so much
him.
So that I actually decided to make a little film about Bandit a couple of years ago, and it's probably the best way to really introduce who he is. So let's have a little look at that.
I knew that I wanted Bandit because I'd seen his profile on the Sydney Dog and Cat website, and the blurb about him, it broke my heart. It did. It really broke my heart. He was a stray, and he came in and he had so many injuries. His back was broken and his pelvis, he's staring at me right now. They said he's disabled, he can't walk properly, and I was like, oh my God, he's our dog. Oh, he's changed our whole life. You don't just rescue a dog that's perfect. That's not the point of rescuing a dog. Bandit was brought in as a stray and he knew nothing. But he was basically like a wild dog. He really was. Like, it was crazy.
When we eventually moved down to Austinmere, the first thing we did was, even the thought of moving down here, we were just like, let's get a dog.
We always knew we wanted to rescue a dog. And we just thought, like, if we can, we should save a dog's life. The Sydney Dog and Cat Home really was just a lovely place. Yeah, that was high on our list, was to go to the Sydney Dog and Cat Home. The day we went to pick him up, he was so excited. He jumped straight in the back of the car, and this is the dog that couldn't jump. And he was like, get me out of here.
Still makes me a bit weepy watching that.
100%. I think I've seen that so many times, and we should say it goes for much longer. So if you want to like watch the whole thing, go to Toby's website. We'll put it in the comments section at the end. But every time I watch that, I cry. And I guess this is a nice little moment to just mention. And you saw in the video there that we rescued Bandit from the Sydney Dogs and Cats Home, and they've been so supportive of us and the book, or they always like hearing updates from the animals that they've helped along the way. And they're just a beautiful organization. And yeah, if you're thinking about rescuing a dog or a cat, like, please check out the Sydney Dog and Cats Home. Or even 100%. If you just want to make a donation, because they really need help. They're trying to build a whole new facility and they need donations. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we love them. They're great.
We do. We love Bandit too.
Yes.
Now, look, I've seen the effect that Bandit's had on both yourself and Sean, and how he's really changed both your lives, with incredibly positively, I should say. He's brought so much joy to both the pair of you, but also everyone, that meets him. He's a fabulous little guy, and, he's just a wonderful, wonderful dog. Now, this trip, obviously, with you two and Bandit, it can be difficult to take an animal on a trip of this magnitude, especially in an old vehicle and all the other challenges that you had before. So just tell us a little bit about what it's like to travel around this huge, brown, crazy country with a dog in tow.
Yeah, honestly, like, it's actually easier than people think. It really is. Like, yes, it is tough. It's you have to, there's a lot of pros and cons, but it is a lot easier than people think. I mean, I would say though, if you're the kind of person that is thinking about going around Australia and taking your dog, you have to weigh up the pros and cons. So if you only want to go to national parks, you want to go to super touristy places, maybe don't take your dog. Maybe leave him with a friend or a house sitter. But if you're willing to kind of have a more adventurous time, get off the beaten track, skip some things, then do it. Take your dog. Like, the experience is far more amazing and it's far more amazing and inspirational for yourselves to do it. And you're with your best mate. And you'd always, I think, everyone told us not to take him. Everyone said, why are you? Oh yeah. Everyone said, why are you going to take him? Leave him in a kennel. He'll only limit you. And we're just like, no way. Like, he's our family. Like, we're not going to leave him. But, in the book, there's so many great tips. I mean, there's like a whole chapter on, traveling Australia with a dog, and it gives you lots of practical tips on how to actually do it, like things you have to consider, like their health and safety. And then each chapter, so every chapter in the book is a different section of the country that we saw. And at the end of each chapter, I've got dog-friendly highlights. So I'm going to give you so many amazing places that you can go and take your dog. And the best thing about that is a lot of the time, those places, there's no one there. And you're finding yourself in this amazing landscape, a beautiful isolated beach, and there's no one there. There's no one there. Yeah. And it's just you and your family and your dog. And it's like amazing. But you do have to be careful. Like, I worried about him a lot. I worried about him like getting bitten by a snake or whatever. But having him there was so much more beneficial. And to be honest, like, he saved our skin a few times. Like, he was a guard dog. We had, not to put anyone off, because, please don't, I'm not going to put you off here, but we had a couple of times where people tried to get into the kombi when we were asleep at night. And as soon as they would come anywhere near, Bandit would just, he'd be barking or growling or whatever.
Right.
And you would just hear them run the other way. Please don't let that put you off. So yeah, there's a huge benefit to it. Like, he really did save our skin multiple times, but he definitely had his limits though. Like, he at the sort of 3-month mark, he was getting a little bit tired. So you just have to manage that. Do you know what I mean? You just have to like create a routine and make sure they get lots of rest and stuff like that. But no, it's actually so much easier than people think, because dogs are allowed in a lot of places you don't think. They're allowed in some national parks. They're allowed in some conservation areas. It is a lot easier than people think.
Yeah. I'm going to put you on the spot a bit here, Mez. That trips like this, they change us. It's a trip of such magnitude like this, you go to remote places and off the beaten track, that kind of thing. It does change you. It gives you perspective and lots of other great things. Did you notice any changes in Bandit, from the beginning of the trip through the middle and to the end? Did it change him as well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if I actually think back to, this wasn't our first trip. This was our first trip around Australia. But when we first got Bandit, when we first rescued him, probably a couple of months after we first rescued him, we actually went up the East Coast up to Byron, and we did that in about 3 weeks. And that trip in the kombi cemented our bond. Like, my gosh, like, yes, he loved us and we loved him, and he was a good boy, but that trip, he was family after that. And he changed as a dog. He listened a lot more. He was a lot more calm and relaxed. And he was like, oh, okay, like, this is where I live now. You're not going to give me up. It was really like that. But on this trip, he definitely, the thing with Bandit is Bandit hitchhiked from country Victoria to Bondi Beach. That's how we got to know him. So he's kind of like a dog that is made for the road. So it really suited him. It really, really suited him. And that is something people are going to have to consider when taking their dog, if it's going to suit them. And so he was pretty normal like the whole trip. But like I said, towards the end, he got very tired because we were going through the red center and he was away from the water, and he's very much a water dog. So we just had to manage that. And definitely he became a lot more protective of the kombi. Even still today, if people come near the kombi, he gets his back up a little bit.
Wow.
So yeah, it definitely did sort of change, I think, how he felt about the kombi, because now he saw it as home. It was like his food on wheels. Yeah, but other than that, no, I don't think so. But it was really the first trip we did up the East Coast that kind of cemented our bond, because we were living so closely together.
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about Etta, the kombi again. What a lot of people probably said to you that aren't kombi nuts or aren't VW heads and all that kind of stuff. Probably thought, you guys are crazy. What are you doing? It's pretty risky taking a 46-year-old bus on a trip like this, isn't it? What how did you react to that? Did you have that feeling yourselves? Like, what's it like to take such an old vehicle on the road like this?
I have to say, I guess we sort of were really excited about it. This is pre-engine breaking down, because we had friends who had done it the year before, and they sort of gave us that confidence to do it, because on their trip, their engine broke on their trip when they were in Darwin.
Yeah.
And they had to deal with that, and they did. And so we were kind of really inspired by their courage to go out and do it. Plus they had kids, we don't have kids. And so that kind of put us in the mind frame of no, we're going to do it. And kind of like with Bandit, everyone told us not to take the kombi. Everyone told us not to take the kombi. But we're like, no way, we're taking it, 100%. But I'll give you a little insight. I'll read a little bit more from the book just about what is kind of like taking such an old car away. But I will also say that, this book is not just for kombi people. It doesn't matter what vehicle you have. Everything in this book is going to help you with your own journey. It's not just about people who take old cars crazily across the country. So this is from a section called Keeping the V-dub on the Road. And look, there's Sean. That's his natural position.
There he is. Yeah, head in the
engine bay. Yeah. So keeping the V-dub on the road. Keeping a car made in 1975 on the road and going strong for over 22,000 kilometers in some seriously extreme conditions wasn't easy. Undertaking a journey like this, of this magnitude, is not for the faint-hearted or the mechanically inept. You have to be willing to take risks and get dirty. We had to stick to a strict servicing schedule with Etta. On a long journey like this, we had to service her every 3,000 to 5,000 kilometers. We brought everything we needed to service her with us on the road. Oil, filters, spark plugs, spare parts, the list goes on. This gave us peace of mind to travel to more remote areas. For fuel efficiency and engine temperature management, we rarely drove Etta over 80 kilometers per hour, hence the name of the book. Yes, she was heavily loaded with our gear, and in the hot temperatures of the surrounding environment, she could only really manage 80 k's an hour. But we managed it well, even in the hot temperatures of WA's northwest. Despite the worry, constant servicing, poor fuel efficiency, lack of air conditioning.
Yeah, right.
Yep. And her 46-plus-year-old rattling body, we would not have done this trip any other way.
Wow.
Because it was actually it was a part of the journey. It was a part of the adventure. It felt like a feat. It's like, okay, can we do this? Let's do it.
Yeah, it's a challenge. Yeah,
it's a challenge.
Yeah, fantastic. And look, we just saw some incredible images there, which are all in the book. So everyone get out and get your hands on it. We've got a lot of questions coming in, but we'll get to those a little later. But just want to remind everyone that you can ask questions of Mez about anything to do with the book, anything to do with Bandit, anything to do with Etta, the wonderful bus. So, fire those questions in and we'll get to them.
I feel like we could cut to Bandit Cam for a second.
Let's cut to Bandit Cam.
Let's check in with Bandit Cam.
How's he doing? Oh,
he's doing well. He's excited. He did wear his bow tie for everybody today.
Bless. Yeah. Now, we've talked about the bus, we've talked about Bandit, we've talked about you guys. The trip itself is epic. The route, which is there's a little map at the beginning of the book which shows everybody, where you guys went, and it's pretty amazing. You must have had a few favourite spots in there. So can you tell us a few of your favourite places that you guys went to, the places that you'll never forget?
Yeah, I guess one place that really does stand out, and it's sort of like my go-to whenever I get this question, is Esperance in WA. It was one of our, if not our favorite place for many reasons, but we had just come off the Nullarbor, which is like the most isolated road in the world, and just, flat nothingness, flat limestone plains. And we had just come off the Nullarbor and we headed south to Esperance, about 45 minutes. And what we saw before us was like it was like an amazing beachside oasis, like crystal clear turquoise waters, the whitest sand you've ever seen. And, we're from the south coast of New South Wales. It's pretty amazing here, but nothing compares to Esperance. There's just a few shots of Esperance here.
Yeah, wow,
it was just amazing. And it was so dog friendly. It was so dog friendly. So many dog friendly beaches. We ended up staying there for, I think, over a week. Some of the other highlights for sure was Exmouth. This is Exmouth here, where we swam with whale sharks. This is on the Ningaloo Reef in WA. And it was just amazing. We stayed there for probably 4 or 5 days in Exmouth. And just snorkeling, swimming with whale sharks, going to the beach every day, turtle spotting, it was amazing. And then definitely the Red Centre. I mean, no one can really prepare you for seeing Uluru in person until you see it. Like, no picture, no video, none of that does it justice until you're right there and you're seeing it, and it takes your breath away. And you get a whole different idea of what Australia is all about and how special it is and how spiritual that place is. So definitely the Red Centre, especially Uluru, was a top highlight, plus Exmouth and Esperance. But there was so much to see. We loved everything. And the thing too about the book, which I think is amazing, is that this is a small section of what we did.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you everything we did. The book would be humongous. And that's the great thing about the book, is I hope it inspires people to set out on their own journey, a unique journey, and to get off the beaten track and try something new, try something unusual that you've never done before.
Yeah, absolutely. What about some of the more unusual challenges that you guys face? You talked a little bit about sort of Bandit protecting you and that kind of stuff. Any other things that spring to mind that were a little bit, left field, out of the ordinary that you had to deal with?
Nothing like hugely out of the ordinary, but definitely like Sean and I don't know if we're just stupid or we're just like too adventurous for our own good, but like we would constantly take Etta on 4-wheel drive tracks in the middle of nowhere. Like it was dumb. Like we were like 600 kilometers from anyone or anything. And we're in this 46-year-old bus. It's a 2-wheel drive and it's got the, original spec engine. And we're just like, yeah, let's go down this like corrugated road for 80 kilometers. So we really put Etta through her, we just put it through hell. Like I just remember this one road we went down. I can't remember where it was. It could have been in Cape. It could have been on the York Peninsula. I can't quite remember. And we went down this really long 4-wheel drive road, and it was like potholes, rocks, everything. And we got to the end, and there was just like this line of like $80,000 4-wheel drives, and then there was Etta, and everyone was just like, I'm like, yeah. And because we put her through so much punishment, things would just break on her. Like we were driving out of a camping spot one day, and the lights just blew, like all the lights. It wasn't just the fuse, it was like the light relay. And so we had to do a bit of bush mechanics to actually make it so we could indicate and things like that. And, her steering broke. We had to get a new tie rod sent up to Kununurra in the Kimberley so we could replace that. Even though we had so many spare parts on board, there were certain things that we didn't have, like who takes a spare tie rod? I don't know. No one does. But we managed it. So there was always moments like that where just like, okay, like I just hope nothing breaks today. Yeah. And at one point, her roof rack collapsed on top of the car. So, but you know what? I'll let you guys read about that in the book.
There's actually a great shot at the beginning of the book, like from which you took with your drone, I think, of all the stuff that you had in the bus. I actually looked at that and I thought, well, that actually doesn't look like that much. Like, I reckon I'd need way more than that to do a trip like that. But
we quickly realized that less was more. Less was best.
Yeah.
Less was more. You know what I mean? Because the roof rack had collapsed because of the weight we had on it. We ended up like ditching so much stuff. Like we really did. Less is best. And you wear the same clothes like every day. No one cares.
Yeah, true. Very true.
I think Sean wore the same pair of boardies for like, the whole trip. I don't think he ever washed them. Sorry, Sean.
He's probably still wearing them now, right?
Yeah.
And there's a couple of good tips there. Just before we get to questions from our fabulous audience, what advice would you give to anyone wanting to start a journey like this?
I guess just have confidence in it. Like no matter what kind of vehicle you're taking, no matter what route you're taking, like plan your journey, but don't overplan it. I like to say that it's not a military exercise. Like, yes, you need to be prepared, but it's not a military exercise, and you have to leave moments for adventure and like exploration. Like don't keep it so regimented, and also like really research the time of year you want to go and the way you want to go. Like most people go anti-clockwise around the country. That's because on the Nullarbor you get really strong headwinds, and so if you're going with the headwind it's better. But we went the other way, just because it was better for us in the time of year we wanted to go. We went in March, and so March, April, May in the southern part of Australia is not too hot, but it's not too cold. But the main thing is it's not windy. The wind really picks up around January, and so then by the time we got up to Exmouth, where we wanted to swim with the whale sharks, they were there. It was in season. And then when we got into the Red Centre, because no air conditioning, it was winter and the wet season was over. And so that was the perfect time for us to be there. So we had to plan that. We couldn't just go. We had to plan exactly the right time to be in each area for the car, for us, and for the dog. So definitely plan the time of year and the route you want to go. But also basic things like, oh my gosh, have water all the time. You have to have at least 20 to 40 litres on board at all all
Oh, wow.
times, and have a first aid kit and know how to do some first aid. We were lucky we didn't have to, and make sure you have good phone service. And if you're going to go into really remote parts of the country, it's always kind of good to maybe consider a satellite phone, because I mean, what other option do you have? If you get injured, you need to contact someone. So that's just some pretty basic tips, but maybe I'll just mention two others. One being buy local. It's really easy when you get to a new town to go to the big two. You know who I'm talking about? Try not to do that, because that's not helping anyone in that community. Try and go to the local butchers, the local fruiterers. The best thing about the book, I reckon, is that at the end of each section, I give you my tip for the best baked goods, best food, and best coffee in each section that we went to, in each area we went to. Best free camping spots, best dog-friendly highlights, best eats, best coffee. And so buying local is really important. And also, we had an Indigenous travel guide, a travel book by Welcome to Country by Dr. Marcia Langton. So that was amazing. And that really helped us kind of get around the country and to sort of have a better understanding of where we were going and who we were meeting. So that's some of my basic tips, but there's a lot more in the book.
There are heaps more. Let's get to some questions from your adoring fans.
Oh, please.
there's a lot of kombi related questions. One actually I would like to know the answer to. This one comes from Anthony B. He's asking, did you guys ever run out of fuel?
Okay, so no, we didn't. And that's in one of my tips, is we always had a 20-litre jerry can on the roof, always. And we wouldn't use it only unless we had to, and we never had to use it. There was one point where we were near Karajini, and we were coming out of Karajini National Park. That's in WA, northern WA. And Sean did the calculations. He's like, yeah, I think we've got about 10 litres left. And we're like, oh, okay. And so the petrol station was 10 litres away. And we pulled up to the petrol station and he filled it up, and it's a 55 litre tank, 55 litre tank. And it was 54 litres went in.
Oh my God.
We had 1 litre left, and we're just like, oh, thank God.
Wow.
But definitely having Sean, that is all Sean. Definitely having spare fuel is another top tip.
Yeah. And Jenny Frappel asks, how much did you guys spend on fuel across the trip?
Oh God, honestly, I don't know. But our fuel efficiency was 12 litres to every 100 kilometres. And we did 22,400 Ks. So you can probably work that out. But in saying that, if you have a four-wheel drive, it's gonna guzzle fuel way more than the kombi. They just do. They're gas guzzlers. So it's probably around the same type of fuel efficiency as a big four-wheel drive. Yeah, I don't know how much we spent. I would predict it would have been maybe 8,000. Yeah, probably about $8,000 on fuel. Okay. But that sounds like a lot. But you're sleeping in your vehicle. You're not paying for caravan parks very often. So, it works out. It works out pretty cheap.
And how many Ks did you travel on that?
Yeah, we did 22,426.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you can imagine if you did a whole lap, it would be well over 60,000.
Yeah. I mean, that's an incredible. That's a huge distance. So really, it doesn't really sound like that much. Another question from Renee Gherkins. She's asking a dog-related question. She says, what would you say to those contemplating or hesitant about taking their doggo on a long road trip like this?
Yeah. I guess kind of I'll just expand on what I said before. Is before, if you're thinking of doing it, going away for, more than a month, really sit down and write down the pros and the cons. If you have a dog that doesn't travel well, are you going to take them on a long road trip? I don't think so. That is not good for the dog. It might be good for you. It's not going to be good for your dog. Don't take your dog if you're just going to put them in kennels all the time. If you want to see loads and loads of national parks, the most touristy places, you want to go to museums and stuff like that, maybe don't bring your dog. So everyone's journey and what they want to see is really different and really individual. So think about what you want to do, where you want to go, and then decide. But in saying that, we went to a lot of national parks because there are so many dog sitters across the country. And, even if there's not a kennel nearby, when you're researching thing if you're trying to research kennels nearby National Park before you go. If there's none, there's always going to be local dog sitters. And this is the best piece of advice ever. You go to the info center of the town that's closest. They will have a list behind the counter of local dog sitters. Every single information center we went to had one. And they'll be like, yes, don't use the kennel. Use Tara. She lives down the road and loves dogs. It's that kind of thing. Yeah.
Perfect.
So it is easy, but you do have to put in the effort. But if your dog doesn't travel well, maybe don't do it.
Yeah. Quick one from Trent Mulligan. How old is Bandit now?
Well, we don't really know because he's a rescue, but we think he is around between 5 and 6 years old. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We think he's between 5 and 6 years old. He's
having a
lot grayer. He's asleep. He's a lot grayer than he was on the trip.
This is an interesting one from Jack Wingdinsky. What about your solar power strategy? Obviously, you're out in the middle of nowhere. You're not always going to powered campsites, that kind of stuff. What do you do power-wise?
Yeah, so before we went, Sean installed an inverter and a second battery, which we call the leisure battery. We're really lucky, like in the back of a kombi. So the engine is at the back of a kombi and it's down low. And when you open it, you see your battery on the right-hand side. And then there's like a mirrored, like exactly the same amount of space on the other side where you can stick another battery. So we put a leisure battery in there, and then Sean ran all the cabling through the bus to the inverter. And so the inverter pumps it up to 240 volts. And then what we did is we had a solar panel. And even now, like then we had a big solar panel. This was like 2019. Now you can get these solar blankets, which are really light and really tiny. And so whenever we set up camp, we just got out the solar blanket, attached it to the leisure battery, and we had power. And as you're driving, the alternator charges the second battery. So even if you pull up to a campsite late at night where there's no sun, like that battery will have enough juice in it to power your fridge throughout the night. And we had like a fridge freezer that was the perfect size for us. And we never ran out of juice ever. It was so easy.
That's cool. That sounds strangely simple.
It is. Sure, it really is. Sure. But we also had a solar shower, which is like we made it. It was like a black piece of PVC piping, and we painted it black so that when the sun went on it, it would heat up really quickly. And that was attached to our roof rack. And then we attached on the end, like we sealed it, and we attached like a tap on the end, and then we had like a hose that had like a shower, and so you could have a hot shower in the day or the afternoon because the water was heated up. But yeah, you can kind of see it. You can kind of see it. You can kind of see it there, kind of. Yeah. But yeah, that's the spare Jerry cans. There you go. Oh no, that's the awning. But we had all that kind of stuff on our roof, so that was kind of important. But you don't shower that much on the road.
No,
you go to the beach.
Yeah, exactly. Much easier. Kylie Robinson has a question. She also has a 75 kombi. She's yet to take her kombi's called Marge, by the way. She's yet to take her on the sand. Did Etta manage okay in the sand? That's a good question.
Oh yeah, 100%. I said that with such confidence, but like the first time we took Etta onto the sand, we were like so nervous. But the trick is, and this is in the book, I tell you my top 10 things to bring. And this is one of my top 10 things is an air compressor. Right. So you got to let down your tires if you want to go on soft sand. I love it how Sean's just like randomly bringing up cool and interesting photos for us. So we would let down, here we go. That's a good shot, Sean. We would let down the tires to about 12 to 20 PSI. From 40 PSI, and that just gives you a lot more traction on soft sand. That's quite hard packed sand. You don't really, that's like driving on a road. But we went on some seriously soft sand. But the trick is, same with corrugated roads, is to, lower your PSI in your tires, but don't forget to pump them back up. So that's why the air compressor is good, because once you get back onto the road, you got to pump them back up to 40 PSI.
Sure.
So no, you just have to have guts. But in saying that, like you can come unstuck. Like we got stuck a few times, and we had 4-wheel drive recovery tracks that you just slip under your tires. We only had to use them once though.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you need to worry about sand getting into places where it doesn't need to be and things like that?
Like because the engine's at the back. Yeah, like the engine's at the back and it's really low. And so if you're going across like big sandy mounds, you've got to be careful. Like a kombi is quite high up unless you you've lowered it, but its natural stance is quite high. So I would never recommend driving on sand in a lower 2-wheel drive. I just wouldn't recommend doing that. But yeah, sometimes she would have sand on the oil sump. Kombi people will know what that is, and you just wash it off. But no, it was fine. But it's the red dirt in the Pilbara that gets into the engine and into the air filters and everything. So when you're going through sort of soft, sandy, red desert, you've got to take your air filter out and bang it out like every day.
Yeah.
And still there is red dirt from the Pilbara in the engine bay, like still.
That's kind of cool though. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
This is a great question from Lulu Bell Scott, and I'm really interested to hear your answer to this. She asks, it sounds like you've given a very honest account of your journey. I 100% agree you have. Lulu asks, what's your feeling about the sanitized, idealized depiction of van life on social media? What do you think about that?
It's a decisive question. The one thing about the book is that we, like Sean and I, are not influencers and we're not van lifers. We're kombi people. We're V-dubbers. The V-dub community who are watching will completely understand that. And it's two very kinds of different people. But, we met a lot of amazing van life kind of movement people on the trip, and they're really lovely and really nice, really nice. A lot of that kind of stuff you see online is not realistic. And so I think the best advice that I can give people if they're planning a trip in a van especially is don't buy into all of that. Yeah. The perfectly manicured photos and the setup shots, it's not real. So that's why I wanted the book to be really, really authentic, because Sean and I are authentic, and we don't set up shots, and we're not trying to be anything that we're not. We're just two kind of coastal bogans who really love VWs. And so I know that when people read this book, that will come through. But at the end of the day, each to their own. But if, like anything on Instagram, you have to take it with a grain of salt.
Absolutely 100%. That's something we talk about often.
Yes, especially on our podcast.
At high volume, indeed. This goes to the imaging question as well. This one's from Mark Perinich. I hope I've pronounced that correctly, Mark. Apologies if I haven't. He asks, how much camera gear did you take, and what lens did you use the most? I want to know the answer to that one too.
Okay, so I took way too much camera gear. So typical photographer, I was like, I need that, I need this. Oh my God, I need all that. No, I took way too much. My best piece of advice is if I'm not really into changing my lens too much when I'm out and about. I just want to get out of the kombi. I don't want to waste my time. I do not want to be shooting the whole time. That was the thing too. Yes, I took 12,000 photos, but I didn't have my camera in my hand hardly ever, because I wanted to really experience the trip for myself and not just through my lens, which I think is really important for anyone, not just a photographer. Don't be doing it for the gram or taking 10 million photos all the time. Really experience what's happening. But so I actually found that I just used a normal zoom lens, a 24-70, 24-105. I just had that on all the time, because the 24 mil got me some really wide, beautiful landscapes, and then the 105 was really good for getting plants or birds or whatever. And then 50 mils, obviously my favorite. I said that obviously, but I know you know that, Toby. 50 mils is my favorite lens. So I brought that as well, and it's really good in low light. But yeah, less is more. Take a good wide angle lens, take a good standard lens, take a good telephoto lens. And, if you're the kind of person who doesn't want to be bothered by changing lenses all the time, take a good zoom. Because, also I'd be out in sand dunes and I didn't want to open my camera to the elements. So I would just keep the zoom lens on. Yeah. And it was fine. I mean, sure, I'm not gonna print billboards from the images. But yeah, I mean, less is more. Less is always more. But the drone too. The drone was the best thing we brought.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about the drone. Did you have any issues using that? Any officials coming to get that drone out of the sky or anything like that? Or was it all
no, because this was before you had to. Because it was 2019. Now, if you're going to use a drone commercially, which obviously we did because we made a book, you need to have a proper license, which we do have, because Sean, who operates the drone, he used to be a pilot and he had his license with CASA and all that kind of stuff already. So he just went online and did it, and it was so easy. But you download this app and it tells you where you can and cannot fly, and we just stuck to that. And in all honesty, most people don't. And it's really sad to see. Most people fly too close to wildlife. They fly near national parks where you're not supposed to. They fly near airports. Like, we saw some pretty despicable behavior on the road, I have to say. You know, not just with drone people, but with many things, people leaving trash, that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you're going to take a drone, make sure you're registered, and you're not flying it. And a lot of people say don't register it because then they'll never know that you flew it where you weren't supposed to. That's not the right thing to do,
Right.
because there are rules for a reason. There really are, like, especially not to disturb wildlife, or to disturb other travelers. Like, if there were other people around, we didn't use the drone, because who wants that? Plus, Bandit hates it. Bandit hates the drone, you know, so we didn't use it a lot, but it was a really amazing tool to have. And we also used it to, like, you know, do reconnaissance missions up to four-wheel drive tracks to see if we could make it. Like, we would just send it forward. So it was handy for that.
Yeah, awesome. Getting back to the people, I've got a question here from Sean Kaiser, who says that you met him and Fee on the road.
Yes.
Sean actually asks, who were the most annoying people you met on the road? He says he heard those troopy people are hard to deal with.
Troopy people are so hard to deal with. Yes, couple Sean and Fee. Like, oh my god. So this is Sean and Fee there.
Oh, there you go. They made the book.
You know, Sean and I are extremely antisocial people. I just have to put that out there. But we met Sean and Fee in Esperance, and they had this awesome troopy, and we love troopies. And they had a rescue dog, a cattle dog, called Ollie, and I had to talk to them. And so we were actually, like, dodgy free camping in the same spot. And I was like, hey guys. And then we just kept seeing them, like, along the way. And they were so sweet. Like, I remember we were at this place called Bremer Bay, and, you know, they're in a 4-wheel-drive, we're not. And they were like a day ahead of us, and they were coming off the beach at Bremer Bay, and we were going onto it, and they stayed behind to make sure we got onto the beach and we didn't get stuck. It was so sweet. They were so nice. But yeah, they were definitely the most annoying people on the whole trip. No, I'm kidding. They were lovely. And yeah, that's, like, also a really good tip as well. Like, if you have a dog, you know, befriend other dog owners, because you can watch each other's dogs on the trip. That's a really good way to travel with a dog. But they were very lovely. But we met a lot of people on the road because of the car we drive. Everyone wants to talk to you. Probably by the time we got to Exmouth, like, we were a little bit over it, like, everyone wanting to talk to us about our kombi. But no, everyone was so lovely. Everyone had a kombi story, and we heard all of them. So thank you, everybody. But we also sort of became a bit notorious. I remember, I write about this in the book. I remember we were in Coral Bay, and we stayed at a few times. We stayed at a caravan park, because you just can't free camp there. They'll fine you. And we pulled up late at night into this caravan park, and this family with, like, adults, like teenage kids, they go to each other and they go, oh, they're finally paying for camping tonight. Sorry. And they had been spotting us since Perth all the way up the coast. They've been spotting us free camping in all these different places.
God.
And then they're like, oh, you're finally paying. So you do meet some really lovely people on the road. They were a cool family.
How funny. Look, unfortunately, we've only got a couple of minutes left, Mez. Thanks ever so much for your time this evening, telling us all about this book. I just want to give you a quick opportunity to say thanks to anyone you need to say thanks to in relation to the book.
Obviously, and actually, like, if he wants to, he can turn his camera on. The biggest thanks is to Sean, because I'm not going to cry, because he's so supportive. Where is he?
There he is.
Here he comes. See, he does exist. There he is.
Hey, Sean.
Yeah. Sean is the most supportive partner in the whole world. And, you know, he really is the reason we got Etta back on the road. Even though, you know, I was like, you know, I was there with him, you know, elbow deep in grease. He's the reason that we got Etta back on the road and that we kept her on the road. And, you know, he's so supportive of me and making the book. And yeah, and he's so lovely and I love him so much. And obviously Bandit, like, for keeping us safe on the road. But, you know, my special thanks is to all the team at Affirm Press, especially Coco McGrath. She picked up my manuscript out of a pile and saw, like, its potential. And to Kieran and Martin, who are the publishers. They're just awesome and so lovely and supportive and excited for me. But other people like Renee, who helped me design the book, because, you know, I shot it, I wrote it, I designed it. It's 95% my blood, sweat and tears, but Renee really helped me nail the design in the end. So thank you so much, Renee. I hope you're watching. Yeah, just the whole Affirm Press team. And then obviously to Collins booksellers, they've been so supportive. Like Kate mentioned at the beginning, like the day I got my publishing deal, I went and told them.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, having a local bookstore is the best thing ever. And I really encourage everyone to shop at their local booksellers because they really need our help right now. Like don't go onto Amazon. You know, go to your local bookseller, and that this might actually be a good time, and we'll have a screen up at the end, but I really encourage everyone to order their book from Collins booksellers at Thirroul, and we'll give a link because they ship all across the nation, and I think Kate mentioned it's free shipping with orders over $50. So it's Christmas time. Grab a few books and you'll get free shipping. So we'll leave the link to that in the comments. But yeah, I thank you, Toby, because you gave me, you know, 2 pictures for this this book, because I didn't take any photos when I was in Adelaide, and I called you up and I was like, oh my God, I need a photo for Adelaide. I know you've been there. Please help me. So I thank you so much for that. You're always so supportive of me, and just your love of Sean and Bandit and Etta. You know, we just adore you. And then obviously it's like our family and our friends for being so supportive of us. I think Sean's mum might have already ordered about 6 copies. So thank you so much, Bev. But yeah, to my mum, my sister and my brother, and to all of Sean's family, thank you so much for supporting us.
Awesome. Thank you, Mez. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful
and to everyone
evening.
watching.
Yes, I was going to say thanks to everybody that's watching, everyone that threw questions in. We've got so many that we didn't get to. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll reply in the comment section and answer them.
Awesome. But thanks, Mez. Huge congratulations once again for the book Around Australia at 80Ks. It's a wonderful read. It's fabulous, fantastic pictures, amazing images, great tips. You know, it's the travel book of the year, in my opinion. I think is absolutely
fantastic. Toby, you're so biased.
Thank you again, Mez. Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you, Sean, for your fantastic work behind the scenes
thank you,
tonight.
Bandit.
And thank you, Bandit. And we're going to leave you with there he is. Thanks, Bandit. Well done, mate. We're going to leave you again with the trailer for the book. Make sure you go out and buy it. It's a fabulous read. And again,
buy 2 copies. Buy a copy for your friend, your neighbor. Buy 2 copies.
Christmas is coming. Get out there and buy it.
Yeah.
Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you very soon.